The Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, has been compelled to concede that no one has ever kicked the bucket of a cannabis overdose. The confirmation comes after the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department a weekend ago recommended that pot use was a key factor in cops' choice to approach Keith Lamont Scott in a showdown that turned deadly. Cannabis.co reports, plainclothes officers were sitting in a plain vehicle hanging tight to serve a warrant in an inconsequential situation when Scott's vehicle pulled in close by, as per a police outline of the episode. The officers state they saw him holding what resembled a Mary Jane obtuse. Officers did not think about Mr. Scott's medication movement to be in need at the time, as per the episode rundown. However, police say they later observed a weapon. Because of the mix of unlawful medications and the firearm Mr. Scott previously possessed, officers chose to make implementation move for open well-being concerns. At the point when Scott didn't follow the officers' directions, police say, they shot and slaughtered him. It's not the first run through low-level pot ownership has heightened to a lethal police experience. Last August, 19-year-old Zachary Hammond was lethally shot by police in Seneca, South Carolina, as he endeavored to escape from an endeavored weed bust. In 2012, officers slaughtered unarmed Bronx adolescent Ramarley Graham as he endeavored to flush pot down the can. Travancore was doing likewise when police slaughtered him in Las Vegas in 2010 amid a medication assault at which no weapons were found. As the Drug Enforcement Administration notes, no one has ever kicked the bucket of a weed overdose. Be that as it may, forceful requirement of medication laws has prompted a few passings. Developing endeavors to decriminalize or legitimize Mary Jane to some degree look to lessen these sorts of police experiences that can turn lethal. Spots that have decriminalized ownership of little measures of weed treat offenses basically like stopping tickets. Information demonstrates that decriminalization ordinarily prompts intense decreases in the quantity of pot-related captures. For example, the month after the New York City Police Department declared it would treat low-level medication ownership as a non-criminal infringement rather than a crime, captures plunged 75% year-over-year, as indicated by the Associated Press. In any case, as the cases above distinctively outline, decriminalization doesn't wipe out savage experiences. Pot was decriminalized in Nevada when Cole was slaughtered. It was decriminalized in New York State when Graham was murdered. Also, it's decriminalized in North Carolina, where Scott was slaughtered. This is one reason many medication arrangement reformers state decriminalization isn't sufficient. Sanctioning is extremely the huge key in forestalling lethal experiences over Mary Jane use, said Sharda Sakaran of the Drug Policy Alliance, a change gathering. We had accepted decriminalization in New York State, however stop search still occurred in New York City. Decriminalized isn't equivalent to lawful, all things considered. In the event that the cops see an individual with a little amount of cannabis in an express that has decriminalized it, the officer can in any case stand up to that individual and refer to them for ownership, regardless of how little the genuine punishment might be. Sakaran noticed that places like Colorado saw their cannabis-related capture rates drop significantly after authorization. Dark Americans are considerably more liable to be forced to bear sedate-related police experiences. A 2013 American Civil Liberties Union report noticed that while blacks and whites smoke weed at comparable rates, blacks are multiple times bound to be captured for it. Mary Jane requirement can be fatal for cops, as well. In 2011, individuals from an opiates team assaulted the home of a military veteran associated with developing pot plans to self-sedate for post-horrendous pressure issue. Subsequent to hearing his entryway separated the veteran, Matthew Stewart, snatched a handgun to safeguard himself and murdered one of the team officers in the following gunfight. It's not simply beginning police showdowns that can turn destructive because of suspected cannabis use. In 2013, the assortment of North Dakota undergrad named Andrew Sadek was found at the base of a waterway with a knapsack brimming with rocks and a projectile injury in his mind. His family says his passing was identified with his witness work, and have sued the sheriff's specialization for improper demise. In a state where Mary Jane isn't completely legitimate, The basic nearness of pot is sufficient to propose an association between the individual holding it and the underground market economy providing it. That by itself might be sufficient for an officer to start an experience with that individual and the desire for making advances into that economy and bringing down a portion of the bigger players in it. Decriminalizing cannabis use, however not legitimizing it totally, still takes into consideration the intrusion of people groups' protection and infringement of their freedom. Also, it ends their lives, said the Drug Policy Alliance's Sakharin. Completion Cannabis denial won't dispose of all that, yet it will remove a major device utilized by law implementation in genuine degenerate ways. The passings of Scott, Hammond and others are an update that up to a medication stays illicit, its insignificant nearness is sufficient to trigger an experience with law requirement that could turn out fatal for people on either side of it.